Hello everyone, Mr. Nacho here, and welcome to another community builds spotlight. I'm gonna be honest, I have been cooking a lot of builds, but there are quite a few bugs, some minor, some quite major. I'm not going to release the builds as of yet. I will just wait for the bug fixes and then we'll just get into the builds that I've made. But today we are focusing on you and what you have made. I'm going to look up builds on Remnant 2 Toolkit and then I'm gonna test them. I have already prepared 3 of them, and I've tried to make them so that the first one will be quite simple and easy to understand. Next one will be a little bit more complex, but a little bit more broken. And the last one is absolutely broken, and then if you have any issues with any boss, you can just slap this on and just make sure that you just go through the fight without any issues. So let's start with the first one. The first one is a Hacks build with Nightfall. So we'll be using the Hunter with Hunter's Mark, then we'll be using the Gunslinger with Bulletstorm. Normally we wouldn't be using the Hunter's Mark but the Hunter's Focus, but simply because right now Hunter's Focus gives you 100% crit chance whenever it's triggered, we will not be using it, we'll just focus on the Hunter's Mark, skip the Hunter's Focus for now. But if you are watching this after this is patched, then make sure to use the Hunter's Focus, simply because this is the build that was made for the Hunter's Focus with all of the movement speed that we have, and it will just yield you better results. And as I've said, for now I will not be using it simply because it's bugged. When it comes to the armor, we are using the full Leto Mark II setup. When it comes to the relic, we are using the Shielded Heart with fire rate, health and mod duration. When it comes to Nightfall, we are trying to use the Dreadwalker as much as possible, and with our setup we will have it almost 100% uptime on it. The Bullet Weaver is very nice on it as well, because it increases our fire rate and gives us bonus mod generation. We don't really focus on crit on this build. This will just be a baseline damage, but it will be very consistent. Then we have Spectral Blade with Shocker. This is nice for dealing with groups of enemies. And then we have the choice of either Tech 22 with Fetid Wounds and Bore. Fetid Wounds just gives us 10% more damage. Bore gives us a weak spot on a boss if it doesn't have one. With our setup, it lasts for 14.5 seconds, so there will be plenty of time to land a lot of shots on it. But if you don't want it, you can just run the Nebula with feedback on it. It's just become a staple dispatch. It's extremely powerful and you can use it virtually with any build. So Nebula with feedback is always a good choice. When it comes to the setup itself, the Indignant Fetish is the amulet that we are wearing, and it was changed this patch. It was previously only activating on enemy damage, but right now it's activating on any damage that we take. So if we pair it with the Atonement Fold that inflicts bleed on us, so some type of damage, it will be permanently active and it will give us 20% bonus to all damage dealt and 10% damage reduction permanently. Very nice. We have the Hardcore Metal Band, which gives us 5 stacks of Bulwark, so we have additional 25% of damage reduction. Then we have the Cataloger's Jewel to get back as much of the mod as we can for both Bore and the Dreadwalker. And then we have the Leaking Gemstone. It allows 20% of mod power generation to continue during an active mod, so we'll be able to get a lot of the mod back before it even finishes, so that's great. When it comes to our DR, we are at 76.3% at the moment. The traits that we have are Swiftness, Fortify, Strong Back, 2 points into Regrowth to counteract a little bit the bleeding. Then we have Vigor maxed out, Spirit because we want to have our mod back up as soon as possible, Bark Skin for even more DR, Footwork. So actually this was the synergy with the Hunter's Focus, so that you don't really have to dodge too much, you can just sidestep most of the attacks. Then we have Chakra to increase our mod duration, Leech for increased lifesteal efficacy, and then we have 2 points into Endurance and Expertise simply because they are just there. Tonic that we are using is the Matus tonic. It increases our HP by 20. This is very nice. We are at 172 half HP. We have 10 resists for everything. We have 76.3 total DR, so we are almost at the cap. And the build is extremely easy to use, very fluid. If you want to, you can also just spam Fairy Needles to increase your mod generation as well. This might help around the edges. So let's just see how it does against the boss. But other than that, every single build that I will showcase today will be linked in the description below. So you'll be able to go to Remnant 2 Toolkit and look it up there. Also, I highly recommend that you just go on there, try to cook something of your own. There are a lot of new options that we were given, so I highly recommend that you try to make something yourself. Alright, so on to the boss. Alright, so this was the first build made by Hiccup251, so thank you very much for creating this one. As you can see, even in the second fight, without perfect execution, there is actually no real way for you to die. Well, you have only one way to get your HP back, which is the Dreadwalker, but it's so powerful in combination with the Shielded Heart that there is no real way for you to die if you are playing at least semi-correctly. Let's jump right to the next build. It will be quite different than this one. It was made by Dots Are Us, also known as Random. This is his trademark outfit, which is the Zealot's hat, the Fey Royal body plate, the Labyrinth threads, and the Void wraps. The build has 49 weight, some armor. This is nice. This is more of a fashion statement than anything, even though the armor is quite nice. The build is Invoker with Way of Keula and Ritualist with the Eruption. Basically, you'll just want to apply as many dots as you can with the Pulse Rifle, with Corrosive Rounds and Twisting Wounds. So already 2 statuses here. Then we have the Krelax with Krell Edge, which can apply Overloaded and deal shock damage, but we also have Misfortune on it, which will be able to apply Slow to enemies. And then we have Fire from the Hellfire. We also have Searing Wounds on it, which is great. So as soon as we are able to apply any of those to the enemy, we'll be able to infinitely prolong the duration of them with the Eruption skill. Whenever it comes to the Amulet, we have the Legacy Protocol, we have the Ahane Crystal, we have Black Pawn Stamp, Burden of the Rebel, and the Kinetic Cycle Stone. When it comes to the Relic, we have the Profane Heart, which means we don't really have to use it. We'll just get healed through the damage that we deal. We have mod and skill cast speed, we have skill damage, and we have skill cooldown. When it comes to the traits, we have Triage, Kinship. Kinship is quite important simply because you'll be able to actually KO yourself very easily with the explosive shot from the Hellfire. It does insane damage, especially when we have Amplitude on. It will just be a huge explosion that will be able to one-shot us, so Kinship is required. Then we have Fortify, Flashcaster, again very important Flashcaster, so that we are able to get out our abilities faster, and they are damaging abilities, so it just increases our DPS. 2 points into Regrowth, Vigor maxed out, Siphoner, so we get even more lifesteal, Leech, so we get even more lifesteal, and then Expertise at 8 points. Let's just go and take it for a test drive and see how it does against the boss. Alright, so this was the Ravager. As you can see, the build works extremely well. I don't know why it showed more, but right now it's showing 6 seconds of cooldown, so the Eruption is absolutely busted right now. If you want to make a perfect rotation, you would go with 1 wave and 1 explosion, so that you can have it infinitely, like this. Seems kind of fine to me. I think that this is absolutely great. I love this build. Dots always comes up with fun stuff, so give it a try and let me know what you think. And let's move on to the last build. The last build that I'd want to showcase is absolutely busted right now. It doesn't utilize any bugs. It's all legitimate interactions within the game. I don't know if it will be changed, but if you are having any issues with any boss in the game, if you slap this build on and you have the good setup, you'll be able to do them in one try without any problems. So this is how it works. It's the Prime Engineer, so that you can actually overclock your turret. We'll be using the Flamethrower turret, simply because the secondary archetype that we have is the Invoker. An Invoker increases skill damage and elemental damage, so the turret actually receives the double benefit of the Invoker class. When it comes to the armor, we are using the Bloodless Crown, the Elder Raiment, Elder Leggings, and Elder Gloves. The drip doesn't matter here at all, will be invulnerable at 100% of the time anyway, and it's all thanks to the Bloodless Heart. It says that it has a 50% use speed bonus, which is great. We'll have even more use speed simply because the Invoker has the perk of the Soothsayer, which says that relic use speed increased by 25% while Invoker skill is active, and it will be active permanently at all times because of Soothsayer again, which says on relic use extended duration of active Invoker skills by 20%. So whenever you activate a relic, it actually refreshes and prolongs the duration of your Invoker skill. And whenever we'll be popping relic one after the other, we'll have the Way of Keola up permanently, and we don't have to worry about the cooldown reduction or anything like this. The relic fragments are elemental damage, consumable, use speed, and skill damage. When it comes to the long gun, we are using the Sparkfire shotgun with Heatwave and Maelstrom. We have the World's Edge with Tainted Blade, and we have Nebula with Feedback. Again, you can slap this on any build and it will work absolutely fantastic. What enables us to spam the relics infinitely is, first of all, we use the restriction core to be at half HP at all times. This is the first thing that's worth mentioning. Then we have the conservation seal, which gives us 50% chance not to consume relic, simply because we are at half HP. And then we have the emergency switch, which says that when below 50% health, chance to consume relic is reduced by 50%. So they both stack, and whenever we are below 50% HP, we have a 100% chance to not consume a relic charge. So we basically have infinite relic charges. We can just stand there and keep spamming the Bloodless Heart. We'll be refilling the Engineer's turret with ammo permanently because of the surplus perk, which says that using a relic refills 15% of heavy weapon ammo, so that the turret will be up there permanently unless someone actually damages it. So the best setup would be to place it somewhere where it still has the line of sight on the enemy, but is not nowhere near close the boss, so it doesn't get damaged. You can always also place it once again whenever someone destroys it, but it's better if you don't really have to. The rest of the rings are just damage. We have this burden, which I still cannot pronounce, and then we have the burden of the destroyer. When it comes to traits, we have swiftness, flashcaster, 5 points into affliction, spirit, expertise, amplitude, fitness, glutton. Glutton is absolutely incredible here because we actually rely on consuming relics, so this is the only one that really matters here, on top of flashcaster. And then chakra, which increases mod duration by 30%. So let's see how this build actually does against Venom. Alright, So this would be all for today's community build showcase. If you have any build that you'd like me to see, please make it on the Remnant to Toolkit site and comment the name of the build down below. I'll make sure to check it out. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.